Well, thank you both for coming in. I'm glad I feel privileged to get you guys early in the process, and we will try to keep this to an hour in recognition of your time. Try to hold the comments to 2 minutes. You know, there's only the two of you, so we can stretch these a little bit. I will open this up with just stating who you are, statement of position, and then we'll roll into questions. So, Tony, as the incumbent, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Tony DeBone, current Deschutes County Commissioner, position 1. Southern Deschutes County resident, lived just south of Sun River, so kind of halfway between Sun River and the city of Lapine. My wife grew up here back in the day, and we worked our way back here after we got married. So our son went to school here for all 12 years in the Ben Lapine school system. I was born and raised in suburb of Detroit, Michigan originally, so for the other side of the country. My wife, as I say, was raised here. She was born in California on a military base, but she was raised here. And we met in Hawaii, and then we moved to Seattle for a couple of years. But in Hawaii, I worked for a biotech. No, Seattle was biotech. Hawaii, I worked for a military facility, tracking satellites for Air Force Space Command. Very interesting. Biotech research up in Seattle for a couple of years, and then we moved here to, live our best life in Central Oregon in about 2003. Got involved with the Park and Recreation District down in Southern Deschutes County for the kids. My son was in first grade, and I'm like, hey, we got to just enjoy being here while we're here, right? While he's young. So that was my mindset. So I did that for about 6 years, kept getting more and more involved. And then Southern Deschutes County Groundwater Protection, which we may be talking about today. 2008, there was a big community meeting, and I was like, well, what's a commissioner? What are they doing here? So that was the moment, I didn't know, had no idea I'd be a political person. So now I'm an experienced political person. I've been in office for 15 years at the Deschutes County level. Deschutes County is growing. He was 150,000 people when I started. It's 210 now. So it's been his growth path ever since. So managing growth is kind of what we do for a living as commissioners, budget front end, policy front end. So honor to be serving, and thanks for having us today.
Yeah, thank you. Jamie?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us here. And I was just telling here before we started, I appreciate that you guys continue to invest in journalism here and in an endorsement process. Obviously, our local media establishment is hurting right now, and is symptomatic of nationwide trends. I started out life as a newspaper journalist, and I really deeply value what you guys do and the continued investment in the third estate, which is a critical part of our democracy. So thanks. I'm Jamie Collins. I grew up in a rural town. I was a 4-H kid, raised livestock, grew vegetables for the county fair. My dad was a public school teacher, union member, and a Coast Guard veteran. And my mom was an agricultural scientist. And so I grew up around public service, around community, around science, and I think around the values that you tend to build when you are running into people on the main street in a tiny town, and you have those conversations that kind of keep you grounded and keep you focused on, solutions and stability. And part of that for me was my decision after college to go into the Coast Guard. As I said, my dad had been in the Coast Guard. I grew up in a kind of landlocked place, but hearing his sea stories and his stories about his service. And I come from a family in which pretty much someone in every generation has served in uniform, and I'm really proud to be continuing that legacy. So today I'm a Coast Guard veteran. I'm a disaster responder and climate scientist, and I'm running to bring that 22 years of public service to serve the people of Deschutes County. The people ask me the reason I'm running, it is, and if you've heard me on the campaign trail or you've seen any videos online or whatever, it really is for my son Jack. He's 5. I want for him and for every family who's growing up here and growing old here to be able to have access to clean air. For Jack, my wife is a physician assistant for St. Charles. She primarily works in Prineville and Lapine, and we know what smoke does to his developing lungs. So I want to be able to send him outside without worrying us having to check to see what the air quality index is every time. We want to send him out to play with his friends. I want him to be able to have access to clean water without worrying whether there's enough of it to go around no matter where he lives in the county. I want him to have a job, something that he loves doing, earning a living wage, and he can afford to rent or buy a house without spending his entire paycheck on it, and that he can get insurance for his house if he happens to own one, or for his status if he's a renter. Wildfire insurance. So there's a super serious problem here. And then the final thing is I want us to have access to all the open space that makes this place super special, and the sort of vibrant, compact cities that we have under the vision that we have here in Oregon and in Deschutes County that I think we should have here in Deschutes County, and have access to that. And so fast forwarding now, spent 22 years on the Coast Guard, and yeah, I'm really running to bring my 22 years of public service here to serve people in Deschutes County. So thanks. Yeah.
All right. The first question is, what is the role of county commissioner?
Let's start with Gene.
Sure. So in the military, in my background in public service, having led, 200, 300 people or more, up to 1,000 people on these really complex responses, helping clean up the environment, disaster response. The role of a leader is to set the vision and set a tone for a community, and to articulate the values that that community should have, and lay out a map, and then empower the staff, our really talented county staff across all of our departments, including the staff that work for all of our separately elected officials, right? Our sheriff, our assessor, DA, and so on, to do their job. And I believe that here in Deschutes County, we need to articulate a vision that makes this place more affordable. We have sort of competing crises here, housing and homelessness. We have a looming electricity crisis here, where we're not going to have enough power in this county in the next 3 to 5 years at the rate that we're building, due to like historical lapses in infrastructure, and then competition from data centers. And then I believe another huge part of that is fire and water. Wildfire insurance here, super serious problem. The crisis in California is already rolling up here. It's already upon us. And on water, I think the commission needs to articulate the values to both protect clean water, the contamination crisis that we have in the Sun Bernardino County, and then to ensure that there's enough in the rest of our county quantity, as people are withdrawing more and more from exempt wells in the county. We have people drilling wells to 1,000 feet through basalt. I have stood next to a drilling rig so many times, and I understand what that means to pound through that much basalt to find water. That is absolutely crazy. And we need to get a handle on that. We will get a handle on that. So thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Role of a county commissioner. So I'm currently part of the 3-person board. We're going to 5 commissioners here. We are the budget and policy front end of a county, one of 36 in the state of Oregon. We've got our tax rates basically set for Measure 5 and 50. So the revenue coming in is that 3% plus growth in new construction. But the policy front end also, we do get to go to Washington, D.C. and Salem and advocate for the folks of Deschutes County. The job of a commissioner is to be out and about, to really know what's going on. The most valuable thing I can do is get out about around the county and then sit in that boardroom with the other commissioners and compare notes to make these policy choices. Since I've been a commissioner, we've really kept a focus. I've kept a focus on, just kind of keeping it down the middle of the road, doing what we do it well. And I'm referring to the whole organization. Any day, you don't know what's coming at you. We've had soap operas in the sheriff's office basically ever since Larry left. Or, it's just kind of wild times over there. But we're the budget authority for that. I mean, policy makes it at wordsmith. We're the policy front end, and we'd be their appointing body when there was a sheriff needed to be appointed. Got involved and just spoke to all kinds of people about that. My opponent here is talking about water and air quality and energy. Those are all big deals. That's serious stuff. Absolutely. State of Oregon has the Department of Environmental Quality, Oregon Water Resources Department. We have our utility companies, and I've got connections with all of them. We're in an interesting spot in the state of Oregon. We've got a one-party system, governor, legislature, and the departments, and they don't listen to me. I mean, it's a partisan world. I mean, we're going to nonpartisan seats, but let's not pretend with ourselves that, oh yeah, well, Commissioner DeBone said this, and we need to do it because he said something. I mean, I don't get responded to as much as other people do. So, but yeah, policy and budget, front end.
Okay, great. Ready?
The next question. The Board of Commissioners is expanding from 3 to 5 members. Does this change how you will approach the job?
Start with Tony.
Yeah. So as I say, I'm experienced now, but I used to work in a 5-person board. In fact, when I was at the Park District in La Pine, it was small time, stumbling, bumbling time. In fact, we got our first permit rate for 30 cents per thousand, which brought in about 200,000. Basically, that was just to pay utility bills and the insurance, just to keep the doors open. So I came from a very small district, but it was a 5-person board. And me and one of the dads, our kids were the same age, and they were playing t-ball probably at that time, and we were sitting next to each other. He was on the board with me. And as I say, there was 5 of us, and hopefully it was 5 at the time, but we talked about some topic and if we had the money for it or not. And then we said, okay, well, let's get to a vote. And he went one way and I went the other way. I'm like, whoa, hey, wait a minute. I thought you saw the world the way I did. And that was the moment, though. That's the moment that I thought, oh, this is interesting. We just had a split vote. It was 3-2. I don't even know what the topic was. But do we support this position? You know, the people that didn't vote in support of it, can we get there? Because do we respect this 5-person position of a governing body? So I already gone through that with a friend, basically, that we came to different conclusions. It's a little bit more spotlight, compare notes at all with the other commissioners, unless you're in the seat, in session. So yeah, going to 5 is fine. I mean, we can handle it. Not a big deal. If we plan on going to 5 to 7 to 12, that may be something we want to really take a look at. I'm just referring to Fortland.
Do you mind me asking you a follow-up? Would you prefer to serve on a 3 or a 5?
Well, so now I'm experienced in this 3-person board. There, remember, we were a judge and 2 commissioners before about 1978, and then it went to 3 commissioners and the county administrator, just like Crook County did last year, the year before. So they were judge and 2 commissioners. So for 100 years, we were 110 now, because we'll be 5 soon. But you see, Multnomah, Clackamas, Washington, Lane, Lynn. I mean, there's 5. Marion, there's 5 commissioners there. So it's the evolution of it. So for me, I'll be fine either way. We're good. And I mean, I took a position of, hey, maybe we don't want to do this. Why are we doing this? But people are like, yeah, this will be great. We have more commissioners. So we're going there. That's fine.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Sure. I just want to say one thing. I think Commissioner DeBone is joking about 7 and 12 and kind of trying to make a joke out of this. 2/3 of voters here in our county roughly voted to do this. This is a serious thing. This is what the people in our growing county, that is not nearly the same size as the county that we were when we had a judge. We almost 220,000 people now with the projections in the county. I mean, 210 at the last milepost. That's a serious thing, right? I think having served in my life, I served on a nonprofit board here, Meisner Nordic Board. We provide free cross-country skiing up at the Meisner Snow Park, first snow park you hit, going outside town on Cascade Lakes Highway here. I've seen work on boards of that size. Like I've said, I've managed like sort of ad hoc organizations that I basically spring out almost out of nowhere on wildfire response, responding to oil spills, train derailments here in Oregon, like serious things. I have seen the sort of gamut of size, right? And like what works. I do think in a county of this complexity, $750 million budget roughly, that we need more voices and more expertise. I think one of the big opportunities we have with this 5-person board is to get people who have different areas of expertise in, right? And different experiences that they can bring forward to help us all, and focus kind of in their own areas. I mean, there's a value to that synergy and that kind of level of specialization there. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it will be a better match for the county where we are now, and the huge opportunities we have with growth, and then the enormous challenges that I think haven't been managed very well. So yeah, thanks.
Just out of curiosity, since you would support the expansion, would you want to go to 7? Would you prefer to serve on a 7 over a 5?
No, it's a great question. I mean, I think let's see what 5 is. I mean, I think that is a pretty good standard here in Oregon for counties of our sort of complexity and size class at this point. And I think that we're probably a pretty good place to land here. But yeah, I mean, this democracy is an evolving, iterative process, right? And this is why living in the western part of the United States, where we have, progressive with a lowercase p, democracy, and we have ballot initiatives and the ability to kind of like recreate things, right? And make changes in our system. I mean, I think that's one of the wonderful things. So we can see, maybe we will need more. And I'm pretty confident that 5 is probably going to be a very good spot for us once we get the right people in there. Yeah.
Go to
philosophically, is to say we've got a structure of the county. We have the health department, we have the road department, we have the other elected officials, we have the internal services, solid waste, the fairgrounds. So my point is, if we keep it in down the middle of the road in the lane, if we stay in our lane, philosophically, I don't see why we need more and more people to focus on that. If you want to start meandering all over the place, that's different, but it costs money. So then where does the money come from? So I'm just saying that's kind of philosophical difference.
I've lost track. Am I starting with you this week or am I starting with you, Tony? Do you remember? Tony,
what was the
let's
last
start with you. I think.
Okay.
What's your view of the county district map proposal? And if you were elected commissioner, would you support any future changes to the map or the redrawing of the district lines?
District map. So I got to sit there.
That question.
Yeah. Well, I got to sit there. So as to say, there's a initiative petition to go to nonpartisan seats, initiative petition to go to 5 commissioners. Not that big of a deal. Obviously, I mean, I wrote an editor. I said, hey, are you sure we want to do this? I don't know that I really like this idea. So just to show opposition, because I don't know what was broken and what are we fixing? What's broken is somebody that sees the world differently than I do doesn't want me in office, which is fine. That's the world we live in. So then we went to 5. Citizens voted for it. I spoke to a lady at the Ben Senior Center at lunch. It was just classic. I said, oh, I don't even know how it came up. I said, oh, yeah, you voted for that? And she's like, oh, yeah, I want my commissioner. And I'm like, what do you mean you want your commissioner? We're just going to 5. It doesn't mean. And she's like, well, didn't we do districts? And that happened multiple times pretty quick, right? So, and that was just me talking to people, not even asking. So then, as I say, Commissioner Chain's note during the process was, next step, obviously, is to go to districts. Okay, well, let's talk about it, right? So we went through it, and it became very partisan, very tense, right? We filled up the room multiple times, like you were there, and people were kind of really riled up on that one. District Advisory Committee did a good job. And you can see, you just close your eyes. You're like, okay, if Ben's 100,000, you're probably going to have 2 districts. Do you go north and south, east and west? Redmond's 40,000 or so. It's probably about a district by itself. Sisters plus rural, Lapine plus rural. Oh, that kind of makes sense. And that's what they came up with. It did boil down to the last, about 6 districts, 6 precincts in or out at the last moment. It's a starting point. It's for the voters to vote on. Commissioner Dare and I voted to put it on the November ballot.
Okay. And do you support it? Do you support what they finally came up with?
Yeah, I'll vote yes on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jamie, you want to speak to the mapping
Sure.
proposal?
So I want to frame this a little bit. I grew up, as I said at the beginning, in a very rural community in 4-H, et cetera, in a state that was heavily dominated by big city politics. And so I viscerally and personally understand what it is like to be a child of rural America in a place where one's voice does not get heard, and in the state level or a larger level decision-making body that has a direct effect on one's life. And, this sense of having like city slickers telling you what to do when you're in your rural community. I understand that. I am also, and I had an opportunity, actually, I spoke to the Ben Mount Bachelor Rotary this morning about this next topic, so it's fresh in my mind here. But I had an opportunity from 2022 to 2024 to go on active duty with the Coast Guard. It was our defense attaché, something I did not even know existed in the military when I joined 22 years ago, and represent us overseas as a military diplomat. And in Latin America and the Caribbean, where I was engaging with governments in countries every day that were using process and other mechanisms to kind of chip away at democracy around the edges in a very kind of quiet and piecemeal way. But the totality of that in many of these cases is that those processes result in the will of the people being kind of masked or suppressed. And so, yeah, I think we need to bridge a rural urban divide here in Deschutes County. Roughly half the population lives in Bend, and half of the rest of the population lives outside of Bend. That is a huge divide, but there is a way to do that is fair, and that gives every voice in this county a seat at the table in the democratic process. And my core objection to the entire districting proposal is that this is a failure process. What I saw in the districting committee was the kind of stuff that went on in some of the countries that I served in, and a committee that was explicitly prohibited when committee members asked from considering anything other than 5 geographic districts. Look, I think there's a way to bridge the divide. Maybe it is a combination of at-large and districted seats, something that is, people mention this Missoula model, where there are districts, but people still run, jurisdiction-wide, county-wide, and everyone gets a say. Like, I don't know, right? There are a lot of models out there. There are a lot of good ideas. Some of those were talked about. The committee asked the Board of Commissioners, can we consider these other things? And was told no. And I cannot support anything that comes out of a process like that. And I'm sorry. I think the other thing that I witnessed was a canceled public comment session at the end. Not to mention the fact, and perhaps because all of the vast majority of the public comment that was given at the other meetings was against this thing. So that's where I come down. I think we need to, we will see what happens in November. This is not nonpartisanship. This is like a form of like weird, like strongman government that no one asked for. And I'm firmly opposed to it.
Tony, do you want to rebut or say anything about that?
We could go on for a while, but there was a process to this. The advisory committee, they made a decision. It was obviously, and I'm just sharing with what I saw. Obviously, it was just partisan. Boom! And everybody took their positions and they were locked in. So for somebody to say, well, they canceled the last public hearing, it was just going to be more of a circus, and the circus needed to be in front of us, and it was. And we took our positions and we held on to it. So it's a hot one, no matter how you cut it.
Nick?
Oversight of the sheriff and the sheriff's department is a role of the commissioners. How would you go about ensuring proper oversight?
This one's for you too.
Sure. So I approached this, I was to share something. So when I was in the Coast Guard, I had the opportunity to train at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. And I was credentialed as a federal law enforcement officer. I have arrested people. I have conducted searches and seizures, the most intrusive things that law enforcement can do into our individual persons here in the United States. That gives me a perspective on accountability, on the need for transparency, and on the need for cooperation. We do have a separately elected sheriff here in Deschutes County, as we do in much of the state, the vast majority of our state. And that individual, I am excited to work with that individual as a partner on the issues that cross from the sheriff's office portfolio, the direct law enforcement portfolio, but then the sheriff's office being responsible for a core function of our county, which is emergency management and emergency preparedness. But that interfaces with all the other county departments, with public health, with roads, with transportation, even with the landfill in many cases, with our solid waste department. So really, I'm excited to see working with that person as a partner. I will say, given my background, I have the confidence and I am unafraid to hold that person and that department accountable, and provide the transparency and the accountability that may be needed if we continue to have. I am hopeful we will be on the right track with the sheriff's office here and some stability in that department. The county commission ultimately approves the budgets for the other parts of the county that report to a separately elected official. That is a lever and a tool the county has. It's not something that we should wield with any sort of casual attitude. It's a very serious thing. But I will unafraid to provide that accountability and if necessary. Yeah. So thanks.
So, currently, Sheriff Ty Rupert has been appointed by the Board of Commissioners. Previous to that, it was Shane Nelson and then Larry Blanton. So when I got elected, it was Larry Blanton in there. So Larry and I had the relationship, or he was sheriff before I was commissioner, and he kind of said, he told me the way it is, right? Because he was already the sheriff. So then, when Shane got in there, I was like, okay, well, I'm the commissioner and you're the sheriff. So it's just that little bit of relationship difference. But it is an individually elected official. We do take liability all over the place, incarcerating people in the jail, and the actions of a sheriff as an independent elected official, they have the authority to do that. So as I say, I've already acknowledged we've had soap operas in the sheriff's office, and it's a real shame that we're going through that. I think we're in a great spot now with the appointment we've met, because Vanderkamp came and went in the middle of that too. So it's like, oh my goodness. But as I say, the liability of the sheriff's office is one of the biggest things we can do. The actions in the street, the actions in jail, civil liberties being taken away for criminal actions and all that. So it's serious. but we do manage risk, and we manage it well. We've got a great legal department, and I have stood up and held my own to each one of the sheriffs. But as I say, all of a sudden, there's a federal case because of internal investigations against Kozlowski is the one that I'm referring to now. And it's like there's no action that could have happened beforehand because it just happened. All of a sudden, we're receiving that, and we're dealing that with Bill Bailey now too, and that's active, and we're going to have that in a public hearing here pretty soon. So I'm very comfortable with where I've been at. I wish I could have stopped whatever some of this liability issue we have, because we've had to write $1 million check to one of those cases, but that is kind of the cost of doing business at that point. Sheriff's office has got a permanent rate. The people in the sheriff's office are wonderful people. I make sure to have a relationship with each and every one, as many as I can. Search and rescue, the motor pool, detectives, patrol, the jail. So as I say, the culture of the service of the people is good. We just have some soap operas that were in the past, and I don't think we're going to have them in the near future.
So no.
Can I mention something? Oh, sorry. I hope we don't have any more soap operas. I will point out on Bill Bailey, irrespective of the merits of his claims and the situation, the commissioners, including Commissioner DeBone, who has already voiced an opinion on this situation with Bill Bailey, are actually going to have to now decide on this person's fate at the commission again, despite having taken a stance on that already in one way. So that is coming before the commission. I truly hope we have no more drama. I agree with that.
Well, we're doing it in a very open and public way. I mean, as I say, and the sheriff says it too. We don't want any more soap operas. So we're all in that same spot.
Thank you.
Okay, the Deschutes County Fair and Expo Center, to our knowledge, is experiencing financial challenges right now. How can commissioners ensure better financial oversight of the fair? And what's your approach as it seeks to both expand the facilities and also deal with those financial difficulties?
Tony, this is you.
So Deschutes County Fair is the people's fairground. It has its own income and expense. So all the revenue that comes in stays on the fairground for the staff, for the facility. The rentals pay for the operations. We call it the enterprise fund as a fair. There's a fair board, seven person board, which is the fair board. And they're basically the partner of the fair manager for the whole year. So the 365-day planning of what's going to happen at the fairgrounds. The county fair itself is just that 1 week at the end of July, 1st to August. The general fund of Deschutes County, we've been able to write some checks over the years. Not every year, but I remember when I first got started, it was like $400,000. We were able to put right into the capital reserve of the fairgrounds. The people built that facility with a $20 million bond about 27 years ago now, which is paid off. So it's a fully amortized facility. And you said, financial problems. It's hard to get ahead. It's hard to get enough revenue to reinvest in the property. I don't think it's in financial trouble per se. The RV park brings in revenue regularly all year long, and the rentals bring in some revenue, but it's hard to get ahead. So that's kind of where we're at. State legislature just authorized a lottery dollar allocation to all counties, and we heard yesterday or the day before it's going to be $500,000. So that's another chunk of money just come right in. And it's all about just buying some paint, repairing the sidewalks, and fixing up the bathrooms. That's where we're at right now. So we've got the best darn fairgrounds in the state of Oregon, and probably one of the best ones in the West Coast, the newest. So we need to remember that. The citizens supported a 1% room tax addition a couple of years ago, about 8 or 10 years ago. Sun River stood up for this. 1 full percent, which is another $750,000, goes to the fairgrounds every year too. So as I say, it's not flourishing for reinvestment, but it is an exciting place to be all year long.
So yeah, as I said at the beginning of in the introductions, I did grow up going to county fair every year, raising livestock, raising vegetables. I worked the dairy barn in 4-H and made milkshakes and all that stuff. It is a focal point of a community like this, and I think it is especially fantastic that we do have such a great fair here every year that brings members from our rural communities here in Oregon in direct touch with people who may live right here, in downtown Bend, who might not otherwise come into contact with that incredible part of our culture that we have here. I will say about the fairgrounds. So it is not just a matter of sidewalks and paint. The fairgrounds, the water system is at the point of near the point of failure at the fairgrounds at the moment. And it is an enormous, it is a self-sustained, it's an enterprise fund of the county, right? So the idea is that the fairgrounds kind of with some of the top ups that may or may not happen. Lottery funds vary from year to year. That's not something you should be counting on. It should sustain itself. There is a clear issue there, right? If the physical plant is in that kind of situation, in need of some better oversight. I will also add, yes, primary purpose of the fairgrounds is to serve the people of Deschutes County and have the fair. During the flat fire last year, the agreement was that many people who had animals that when they were forced to evacuate, would be able to bring them to the fairgrounds. They were shut out because of a reggae concert at the fairgrounds. You can go online, Facebook groups, and I sleuthed out a lot of this truth. I spoke to many of these people. I realized there was a tension there between the revenue at the fairgrounds, and that the fair and expo felt like it needed to bring in to sustain itself to try to maintain financial independence from the county. That is where these people were supposed to take their animals. That is unacceptable to me.
I acknowledge that emergency manager at the sheriff's office, there was already alternate opportunities. The citizens want to go to the fairgrounds. Oh, there's a fire, let's run to the fairgrounds. But that wasn't the plan. That wasn't, so the cultural momentum was to go there, but that wasn't the emergency management plan. And there weren't that many animals that needed a location. So that was not triggered at the fairgrounds. So it's expectations and hearsay on top of emergencies. So we'll work through that.
Jamie, we'll start this question with you. What role should the county play in addressing homelessness? And do you support the notion of managed camps funded through county dollars?
Sure. So when I look at this question, I approach this first as a human being, as a veteran who has been surrounded by post-traumatic stress disorder, other symptoms that people may have had, psychological symptoms of their service, physical disability that prevents many of the 83 homeless veterans that we have here in the county at the last point in time count for which we have numbers from fully participating in our society here in the county. And then others who are struggling with addiction, other people at the margin, seniors, etc. That is a deeply personal thing for me. And even I think our goal should be that no one has a home. No one lacks a home or lacks shelter that is appropriate for a human being in our county. I just think it's a moral crime that we have 83 veterans who are still without homes here in the county. I also look at this as a scientist and someone who has used data in his entire career as a scientist, as a disaster responder in the military. I had to try to take all the available data we have, and then you make a decision. And oftentimes you are operating in that gray area where you don't have a full picture. What the data do tell us is that the vast majority of the people without homes, our unhoused neighbors here in the county, many of them have jobs. These are the people pumping our gas, bagging our groceries, many of them working as laborers on construction projects, etc. When you see a person walking down the side of Highway 97 from Dirt World, from the major homeless encampment that we have in this county, in dark clothes, is super dangerous. That person is most likely going to and from their job here in the county. And a lot of those people do not have transportation. This is an all hands on deck problem. We need every possible thing we can throw at this. We need more housing at all price points in the county, in our cities. We need permanent supportive housing for people for whom providing a house is not enough to keep a roof over their heads, right? There are people, and these are my friends and fellow veterans. Many of these people just cannot. Giving them a home and saying, here's the key, that is not enough. That requires investment in those individuals as a part of our society here. Kicking the can down the road on homelessness. Commissioner DeBone has voted 10 separate votes, individual no votes, on various forms of homelessness services here in the county, including in one case voting against providing homelessness services and then voting to award an almost $1 million contract to administer those services, and then said it was a philosophical decision. I did not understand the logic of that decision. This is something that we all own. We can do this working with our cities in partnership rather than butting heads with them, to find the resources and collaborate. There is an example. I will just close. There are examples of ways we can do this. Very concrete examples. Skagit County, Washington, north of Seattle, has a program called North Star. I encourage everybody to go on the web and check this out. They have a very flashy website. They got the county commission, the sheriff's office there, all of the cities and municipalities, all their nonprofit organizations together. Took them 3 years to come up with a comprehensive framework where they were actually addressing this as a team. The result was they realized net savings in resources. They were able to fully fund their stabilization center with a reliable source of funding rather than just trying to piecemeal stabilization center funding 6 to 9 months at a time and relying on things like lottery funds. And they were able to make a huge dent in the homeless problem, take the burden off of law enforcement, off our sheriff's office, and off their sheriff's office and their police officers. That is the kind of collaborative solution that we need to be bringing forward here. The county has a very direct role of that as the leadership for 220,000 people.
Great. Do you want us to repeat the question?
Yes, please. Yep.
What role should the county play in addressing homelessness, and do you support the notion of managed camps funded through county dollars?
So we've got a statewide land use system. 1973, Senate Bill 100, we put people in the cities and we keep the rural. We've got a beautiful county, 3,055 square miles, 79% publicly owned, BLM, Forest Service, State Department, state lands. Cities are in a bad spot. We see folks setting up on the right of way and on the ODOT edge of the bypasses here. People started setting up at Juniper Ridge, north of town on county and city link. City council, 7 people, very progressive. Hey, we got a great idea. How about we partner with the county and we'll all if we're in this together. And I agree, we're all in this together. We need some leadership at the state level on this. And I've been calling the governor's office. They're just like, we'll get you some more money. Don't stand by. We'll get you some more money. We don't have funds for it. Our structure of our finances are not set up for this. We give out a lot of dollars for emergency food, clothing, and shelter. Nonprofits are motivated to, inject themselves at the moment to fix one little thing. We do need a bigger picture. We need a big picture on this item. But it isn't just one county. We've got activities in southern Deschutes County. We did a bunch of cleanup on the east side of La Pine after the 3rd forest fire at the edge of town. Sheriff's office and our health department did a bunch of great work. We cleaned up huge messes right next to town there, displaced some people just by making a presence. No conflict. But now they're in northern Klamath County and they're just setting up in these spots. Klamath doesn't even have a sheriff's office that can respond out there. So we're going to see some big fires there. We don't have funds for this. If we want to talk about, I'm commissioner, let's all go tax ourselves more so we can do a managed camp. That's fine. We did ARPA dollars for the partnership with the city of Bend until this extension, which I voted no on. City of Redmond is taking an aggressive move right now to move people off their industrial lands. We're trying to do a land swap with the Department of State Lands so we can expand the fairgrounds and have more industrial land. Department of State Land said, well, you need to clean up the homeless people off of your property. Oh, wait a minute. You got homeless on your property too. Oh, no, we don't. But it's at the perimeter of the fairgrounds. So we make sure we don't have people at the edge of the fairgrounds. So they think that they're doing a better job than us and we're just slacking. That's the state guidance. So we've got a big problem in the state of Oregon and it starts above us. We're the middleman. We get crunched from both sides on this. City is like, oh, we don't want them in downtown. How about we set up a managed camp outside of town? It's resource land. We're not allowed to do it. We're in code enforcement on ourselves on the east side of Redmond and north of Bend for resource land. We have to open a code enforcement case on ourselves to acknowledge to the world that we're breaking the law as your elected commission and we don't have a solution for it. So yes, we need to work together, but we haven't got the right people on the bus, got them in the right seats and done this right yet. So that's why I've really taken a position in the last few years.
Okay. Do you want to rebut that? Do you want to say something? Seems like you're biting your tongue.
Sure. We just heard from Commissioner DeBone that his vision is that the county is a middleman, that he called his governor's office and didn't get anything. We heard at the beginning, though, the governor's office doesn't want to work with him and won't listen to him in the beginning. Okay.
But well, I'll come back to
okay.
you.
We are fighting with the city of Redmond apparently, with the Department of State lands on this. This is not collaborative leadership. This is not leadership. I hear reasons why things can't get done here. I think government has a role. Governing is complex. Solving incredibly difficult problems is complex. It's been 22 years doing this, and I think people of Deschutes County deserve better. They deserve leadership that wants to work with people and isn't going to be bound by bureaucracy and like a set of like crushing excuses and process. Is just going to kind of resign and retreat and say we're just like kicking the can down the road and managing as the middleman.
Okay.
I believe the county needs leadership here.
Thanks, yeah. As I say, I mean, he gets to use those words, and I was referring to when Commissioner Chang and I go to the Salem during a session, he'll be in and out of a whole bunch of offices and talking to everybody, Secretary of State, bopping around with the governor. I'm there with our lobbyists trying to get somebody to pay attention to me. It's very partisan. It's a super majority. They don't need everybody's opinions. So I'm referring to that. I'm ready to lead, and I'm experienced leading. In fact, I'm going to, be running strong here and proud of everything I've done. So this is the exciting moments.
What do you think, Sally?
There are hundreds of thousands of acres of land zoned for exclusive farm use in Deschutes County. Should the county continue to allow landowners who say their property is not farmable to rezone for development of low-density housing?
Tony, you're first. So there's an interesting dynamic there, because does a private property owner have an opportunity to apply for a rezone following the state law? Yes or no? Following the state law, right? So by the time an appeal gets to us, it's been approved by a hearings officer, a land use lawyer in the state of Oregon, that said this application is reasonable, it fits the law, and it can be approved. So then it comes to the Board of Commissioners. And then would it be prudent for me to say, well, it's Tuesday, I don't approve them on Tuesdays? I mean, it's arbitrary if we don't approve these things. Obviously, some people want to say, well, the land that was zoned resource back in the 70s and 80s is the most valuable land in the state of Oregon. And it is down in the valley. You put a seed on the ground and money grows out of the ground. You put water on the ground here and you have a bad summer and you can hardly even get grass to grow here. So we've got a subset of parcels. The Big Look was the history in the state of Oregon. It was the Big Look bill that the state legislature put in place. Said, let's go back and look at the zoning. Maybe we don't have prime farmland all over the state. Maybe we'll look at this. And it got stopped. And it's just political. We love this, ruralness of Oregon. I like it. But I'm pointing out that it isn't like I'm sitting there saying, well, let's go rezone some land today. Do we have a valid application in front of us? Has it been approved by a hearings officer, the attorney? I don't have a legal degree in land use, but I have experience now. So as I say, when that happens, and it's a split vote right now, there's two of us and one of us, and the dynamics with five will be different. I do like the idea of going back and reviewing the zoning in the state of Oregon. There are some big, beautiful farms in Deschutes County, though, too. The water system that we have, COID, Arnold Irrigation District, just putting this water out on the ground, it's great for the people that have that water. The people that don't have water, don't have a history of farming, and have resource land, and want to do something else with it, that's the people that come in with an application.
Thanks, Don.
Sure. So I see this not just as an issue tied to our national model land use system, right, that we do have here in the state of Oregon, beginning in the 70s, right, that we implemented here, where this is this vision for sort of rural lands that have that are open space, right, and preserved, and farmland, et cetera, and then these vibrant, compact cities that have in here, like the one we're sitting in right now, here in Bend. I see this though as this is a core safety issue as well, for some of the rural rezoning of these lands, and this is why a county that has a vision that just says we're just going to allow growth in the county, every proposal that comes up that has had a lawyer look at it and goes before the commission, we're going to approve that. We should look at the numbers. You can use whatever term you want to. There is a sort of term called spot zoning. This idea that you are converting land that was set aside for exclusive farm use or forest use to allow some form of another zoning type that allows this kind of development in the rural county. 90% of the land that has been rezoned under Commissioner DeBone's tenure has been in the county's own wildfire hazard zone. So this is a zone that county community development define for itself as to give them a tool to plan and say, hey, maybe we don't want to build here because this is, or we need to think very hard about incentivizing construction here because this is the most dangerous place to build. 70% of those rezones were in the wildland urban interface, which is the single most dangerous place you can build. I do not believe that we need to be incentivizing a pattern of development that's put homeowners at risk, puts first responders at risk, as we're creating more development in places where they're going to be responding to potentially a fire that in an area where we know better, and we shouldn't have incentivized development there. And it is putting us all at risk about one homeowner's insurance here. I have spoken to insurers and reinsurers as I've ramped up my campaign here, and they will look at Deschutes County, and they have told me, they say, we look at the plan and the vision that the pattern of growth that this county has articulated in the long range plan, and that is something that is increasing risk for them and not buying down risk. And when an insurer looks at something and says, this is increasing risk, they're not going to make a business bet on that place. Insurance is a pool. We're already seeing in California. Last week, there's an article in Bloomberg. People who weren't even in the wildfire hazard zones in California are now getting non-renewal notices because the pool is shrinking and they don't have enough money to sustain. So we need to broaden the picture. We need to broaden the scope a little bit here and make sure that we're considering all of those factors. I have been in burn areas, cleaned up lead teams in hazmat suits and respirators here in Oregon after wildfires burned through communities that were put in the wildland urban interface, and the toxic stew that is left over. We do not need to put anyone else through that, or the homeowners.
Good.
So the whole county is a wildfire hazard zone. That's the whole county. We did this 5-6 years ago. We said, well, if we had a wildfire map, what would it look like? And we concluded that the whole county is a high wildfire risk. A hot wind-driven day with an ember shower coming with an aggressive wind behind it could burn anything anywhere. So I don't understand the wildland urban interface other than this term about the edge of a city going into rural public lands. Having a private property, it's already zoned or it's already platted. You know, we already have platted lands outside, and we're talking about rezoning platted lands. They can be defensible space and fuel mitigation anywhere in the county. So, as I say, I don't know that you can have it all when you say, well, we can't allow this, can't allow that, but we need housing and we need to fix homeless, but we can't do this, we can't do that. You can't have it all. So, I mean, that's just one of the things that I see.
Clay, last question.
Yeah, what's your take?
Next one, we're skin stuff.
I know time flies.
What's your take on how to reconcile drought and water scarcity with building more housing on rural county lands?
Oh, this one goes to Jamie.
Sure. So this is we have sort of two water crises here in the county. I don't need to get into great length, right? We have a crisis of quantity in the entire county, both surface water and our groundwater. We're looking at 11% of our normal snowpack right now up in the mountains to serve our surface water. That also helps recharge some of the groundwater in the rural county that feeds people's wells. Also have a contamination crisis in the southern part of the county. I will say we have so rural residents here in Deschutes County are allowed to drill an exempt well. So this is a well that has no meter on it. We have no idea how much water is being extracted from some of these wells. What we know anecdotally, because of the number of new well drillings in the county and new permits that get filed with Oregon Water Resources Department every year, the people's wells are going dry at an accelerating rate here. And so clearly there is an issue of over withdrawal as people drill more of those wells, take more water out. Their neighbor or they themselves are forced to drill a deeper well right next to it and go deeper, 200 feet deeper. As I said, people are drilling wells down to 1,000 feet. Our water supply in our cities we have a much better handle on that. As we incentivize new growth, we need to be incentivizing that growth in the cities on water systems where we have a much better idea of how much we're using. I fully support our farmers as somebody who grew up farming. I fully support our farmers having access to that water. We do not need new luxury resorts like the Lundberg Resort. We have 20 golf courses already in Deschutes County. We don't need another one. This taking groundwater that is then just going to force the people on the adjacent properties to drill a deeper well. Like, we have to stop this pattern of development here.
Let me ask you just to follow up. Aside from resort development, how about the county working on putting in residential housing or collaborating with the city on projects like that, given the water situation?
Sure. I mean, I believe that the county should. We are growing. Like, people are still moving here. Deschutes County, make no mistake. Like, I grew up from a place with in a place with negative economic growth. Like, our growth is a opportunity here. I believe, and I think the majority of the people in the county believe, that the pattern of growth that we want to see is growth that is incentivized in our cities through the urban growth boundary and the annexation process. And that is where the housing should be built. Those people connected at this point to municipal water providers. We have a good sense of how much water there is. We can manage it. We can help manage that resource. But growth in the rural county with more and more exempt wells is not the solution to that.
Tony?
98% of the water is used for agricultural surface water distribution for agricultural crops. 2% is domestic. 2%, small amount. All the domestic exempt wells in the southern Deschutes County area, if you go to a Google map and you look for people that have half-acre lawns, which is the maximum you can have, there's not a lot of them down there. So yes, it's an unknown quantity, but I have no conclusion that it would be a high excessive water use in any sense. Jamie mentioned 1,000-foot wells drilling through rock. That was an invention in the 60s and 70s when they said, oh, hey, we know how to get through rock and we can go deep down into it. In fact, that's happening at Newberry, down 2 miles. But before that, it used to be cisterns, and that was the same surface agricultural water put in a cistern and pumped in the house so you can flush the toilet. So I don't know that, when I hear about 1,000-foot well, it isn't like, the water was supposed to be here, and now that it's gone down a few feet, somebody's guilty of something. We've got water here. We've got the east slopes of the mountains. We've got tons of water, all the water that ends up in the Deschutes River, and it's a cascading set of water. Yes, there's a lot of water up there, a lot of water under our feet, and how do we get to it? So my point is that an exempt domestic well is a full-on legislative choice if we wanted to put meters on them or stop that opportunity. It's not the commission. You might want to advocate to the state to go meter everybody's well. I don't know that I would do that. So that's what I'm pointing here. So drought and water scarcity, I guess, was the concept here, right? I'm back to the beginning here. It is a real shame what we've seen this winter. We've had some good precipitation. The ground's been wet kind of a few times throughout the winter. So as I say, volume of water is here. It's the surface water that we're not going to see off of the mountains and through the rivers this summer. My experience, Hawaii just about floating away last couple days ago, and the whole East Coast got demolished all winter long. We just happen to be in a weird trough right now. And it hurts. It hurts knowing that, the whole winter sports opportunities are gone here. But I think it's going to rotate at some point, and we're going to get our fair share. So that's the way I see the water. Oregon Water Resources State Department is the one that makes these choices. Thornburg is a destination resort that was on the books way before I even got in office. Like 2004, they did a conceptual master plan and a final master plan. The big hiccup there is the recession. 2007, 8, 9 probably was the time they would have built, and then it didn't. So now that it's the echo of that. But it came in front of us. So we didn't approve that. It was already approved. And I haven't upheld the appeals. Very aggressive people appealing that. But the water that they've already taken from the system, and it's not being used today. So to say they're going to use new water is not correct. It's using the water authority that they have. Big Falls Ranch is just north of them. Big water right is not being used today, and it's in the river. And if they use it, it won't be in the river, but they have the authority to do the water they have. And that's the decision we've always made is show, our job, the code says, if they have a water right, it's approvable. So why wouldn't it be approved if they have the water right? So I'm just sure.
Great.
I've been through a few of these.
Can I?
Thornburg, a long time on the books. Yeah, for sure.
Can I? That's,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just want to point out, I think Commissioner DeBone is I don't know, is creating some confusion here between groundwater and surface water. And yes, 98% of the surface water for our irrigation districts is allocated to agriculture. We're talking about our groundwater depletion here. That is where the water for Thornburg Resort is going to come from, groundwater. We are over allocated. The term is over allocated here in the Deschutes Basin. There are more claims to that water than there is water available. And the evidence in this, the direct evidence is all those wells that are going dry. We also don't need the direct evidence. We have the math to understand this. So that is not a rosy picture where we are at right now. I will also add, I am a climate scientist, and these patterns that we are seeing, there are natural reoccurring patterns in our climate that affect precipitation, all the other things that weather patterns, etc. Overprinted on that pattern of natural variability is the impact of the change that we are bringing about here. If it is less water, it is more extreme weather events, it is incredible heat that we have